The theme of the event today is Her Story, Her Voice. And at Netflix, it's been a constant endeavor to bring more women's stories to the forefront. And we have a strong character and a woman who's just entered. Hi, Huma. Welcome.
If I could start this panel on a positive note and ask all of you to answer a recent role that you've maybe seen on screen, a story that you heard that made you believe that there is a shift, that there is progress when it comes to gender representation on screen.
Good morning, everyone. Actually, क्या है ना कि बहुत सारी फिल्में और पिछले कुछ दशकों में आई थिंक वो फिल्में और ज़्यादा होती जा रही हैं. अब जो एक नया एक टर्म है ना कि फीमेल लेड फिल्म्स या फीमेल लेड सीरीज आजकल, you know, especially on OTT platforms like Netflix, you know, they are doing really well. So definitely there's a shift. But you know, for me, it's not just about the female led films that are creating this sense of empowerment. Today, as an actor, मैं अपनी बात करती हूँ, आपके पास कोई स्क्रिप्ट आती है, आप उसमें पढ़ते हो, तो आप उसमें पढ़ के आपको लगता हो कि अरे जो ये लड़की का कैरेक्टर है, ये खाली हीरो की जर्नी की एक सहारा नहीं है कि हीरो जंग में जाएगा और मैं उसके लिए खाना बनाऊंगी और वेट करूंगी और उसकी दुआएं पढ़ूंगी. लड़की क्यों जंग पे नहीं जा सकती? You know, and I feel that shift in the way we are approaching films, we are approaching series, approaching storytelling has come about. Today I know, and I can speak for myself, you know, many other colleagues of mine are rejecting, saying no, you know, give us more to do, because women, I mean, I've never met a woman who's not strong. Strength के बड़े सारे रूप होते हैं, but I've never met a woman who's not strong. So why are we not representing that strength in our movies? Because when a little girl sees somebody that looks like her making those brave choices, she's also empowered.
Right.
So I think there are a lot more that are happening, and I think all of us are standing on shoulders of so many women, not just the leading ladies as it's called, but also so many other women who probably did character parts or smaller bits, but their contribution is really important to how they brought about this change.
You've been around in the industry for over 10 years now, and from your first very role, you've been lauded for the work you've done, for the roles you've portrayed on screen. Today, as you sit here 10 years later and a little more, how do you see the industry evolving when it comes to depiction of women on screen? That's one part of the question. And the second is, as a producer, what are some of the steps that you would like to take to ensure that there is more women representation on the sets, not just on screen?
Two things. First of all, I think I was really fortunate, to be honest. Like Himanshu sir reminded all of us, you know, the first dialogue I ever uttered on the big screen was "Permission to lena chahiye," you know, which talks about consent, but of course in a fun way. But that's the whole idea, right? Nobody's saying that we have to make boring films or we have to bore people with like and tell them, oh, this is right and wrong. But no, within an entertaining format, how do you get the point across? Because that's when it really sticks, you know, as opposed to just like, so yeah, I think I've been really fortunate, to be very honest, that, you know, I think I because of thanks to my parents and my history honors degree and Gargi College education, I think I was slightly more aware of you know, what I was doing, and also my parents insisted that I finish my education and then move to Bombay too. And I think that really made all the difference.
Right.
See what happens, no? With female actors, there's a certain narrative, as if we are almost like apples. After they're ripe, they're no longer any good. You know, you have to sort of debut at a younger age, and by the time you're married or whatever, now you're not so, you know, what is the word, marketable anymore, desirable anymore. But लड़कियाँ हैं, अमरूद थोड़ी हैं, you know. But I think it's so cool today that so many of my colleagues are getting married and having babies and all in the public eye, as opposed to even 10 years ago when it was sort of like a taboo thing, right? And even in the media, how they were spoken about. If a woman got pregnant, God forbid, or had put on a few kgs, it was almost as if it was a cardinal sin and people were mocking it. And I think there is a big shift in society, which is also being represented by films.
Right.
You know, even when I was growing up, you know, I did not have so many role models that I looked up to. But today, there are many. So when I turned producer, the first film that we decided to do was a film called Double XL. Because when I joined the business, everyone said, "Arey Huma, tu kitni achhi acting karti," but you know, she's a little plump. And I was like, it's almost as if a female body was only supposed to look a certain way. So what about all those other women who don't have straight silky hair, who don't have a certain body type, are they not allowed to feel beautiful or empowered or seen or represented? You know, we're a very diverse country, you know, with very diverse and beautiful women. But it's almost as if there is a mainstream narrative that has been, you know, put upon us.
Yeah.
So Double XL was the first one that we did, which was taking it head on. You know, it had me, it has Sonakshi Sinha in it, outsider, nepo kid. So we tried to take the entire thing, you know, head on. You know, I was playing a small town girl, she was playing a girl from South Delhi, saying this is a problem that pervades everybody.
Yeah.
You know, just because you are a woman from a certain class or a strata, you're not excluded. So those are the kind of stories, you know, I'm interested in. Like for me, it's really important that when I read a script, I'm trying to play a character which is a real, breathing, three-dimensional woman.
Yeah.
It's not that, oh, she's a bossy woman. What do you mean bossy? We never use that term for guys, do we?
No.
We don't. But if a girl is assertive, then she's bossy. And I feel somewhere the way, like for example, when I did Monica, My Darling for Netflix, and Vasan and I were having this discussion, on paper, what is it? It's a glam doll character who's sleeping with the whole office and is blackmailing them. A few years back, a character like this is, oh, can I say the word? She's a slut. You know? Or she's a blackmailer. Or she's a vamp. But the lens in which, and thanks to Vasan and you know, Netflix, and the lens through which we're trying to represent that character, that it's a black comedy, everybody's black. Everybody's wrong. Everybody's making those choices, but when a woman does something, she's called a vamp. So the idea is that we're trying to, you know, bring about a conversation about how can we change and push the envelope a little bit and change these conversations. And it is by, I guess, producing stuff, writing stuff, directing stuff, and there are a lot more women today behind the scenes than in front, and I think that has made all the difference. भाई क्या होता है ना, अब आप पिक्चर बनाओगे, आपको कोई डायरेक्टर बनना है किसी को, बनना है राइटर डायरेक्टर बनना है किसी को, अरे उठाइए हाथ, शर्माइए नहीं. तो जब आप कोई कहानी लिखोगे, अपने बारे में सोचोगे, तो यू विल ऑब्वियसली राइट समथिंग दैट यू नो ना, जो जीवन आपने जिया है, करेक्ट? So that's what happens. If the more women you have that are writing, that are producing, that are directing, the more stories you will write, you know, about your stories.
Thank you so much. No, please, we'd love to hear some more, so encourage you to hear the steps that you're going to take as a producer to bring about this change. I think it's very important. Because recently there was a study that I read which said that, you know, whenever there were more women on greenlighting a project or helming a project, we saw more women representation on the sets. And, you know, I think that is something that's very, very important.
You know, that does happen. Till a few years ago, अगर लड़कियों को काम से कोई AD भी आता था, अरे तुम costume कर लो. It's like the easy stuff is given to you. You're a costume AD, or your job is to make sure the actor leaves the van and comes on set on time. The soft jobs, not the real jobs. But today that is changing. I know so many people who are script and continuity supervisors or first ADs, and they're associate directors, and they're really strong, powerful women. We at least try in my company that we try and have as many number of female people working in the crew, because the more number of women that are working in the crew, the more safer environment it is.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a fact. And the more they feel empowered, in case somebody misbehaves with them on set, then you know that you have someone to talk to. You don't feel like, oh, if I raise a voice, then I will be that girl, you know, who said, this guy harassed me or whatever. And I think all of us will identify, right? A lot of us don't speak out about sexual harassment because we don't want to be that girl, you know, jiske saath ye hua tha. But the more women there are, they'll be able to relate to it and be able to take action.
Huma, what about you? A role that you felt broke stereotype for you? Yours or anybody else's?
There are many actually. I really enjoyed Darlings. I really enjoyed Thappad.
Yes.
I thought when I saw that film, like, you know, I wish I'd done that film, you know. But I think Taapsee did a wonderful job, and Anubhav sir directed a beautiful film, because, you know, in a country where, I mean, you know, domestic violence is quite prevalent, to talk and fight about ek thappad, you know, in itself. And I know like how conventional theatrical wisdom, you know, runs, right? Ki arey ye kya picture hai, koi nahi dekhega, ye kya bakwas bundle idea, you know. And this is how people talk, right? But for a film at that point in time to come and to do well at the box office, you know, gave me a lot of heart, to be honest. Like I really believed in this country, in the people, in being able to create a better world. So that film really resonated with me.
I mean, we talk about physical violence, right? But there's so much up here also that I really hope that someday there's a film that talks about the emotional abuse. I mean, that's the one thing that I would love to watch.
Till then, we just have to do therapy, my sister.
It's a very good time right now with the kind of stories that are. So my point is really not to say, I think we are at a tipping point. So how does one navigate that space? Is really
I have a
dilemma.
perspective of this. So, as an actor, sometimes you're given something to do which is problematic. But then, and it's a very personal choice, right? So I'm offering you a perspective on this. There's a film that had released, I don't know if you guys have seen, called Django Unchained.
Yes.
Yes? And Tarantino directed it. Leonardo played a white guy who hates black people and he spits on them and he kills them and he just does not even think of them as human. And I remember watching the making of that and his interview saying that, there was a moment when I had to spit on my fellow actor, my colleague, and I just couldn't do it because it was so disturbing. Because it's not just me humiliating another person on the basis of his color and his race, but it's also the generational, racism that has been going on and what the film is trying to address. But at that point in time, he chose to do that part because an actor of his stature doing that would create a conversation around it. Now, I'm saying sometimes it can also be used to an advantage. Often I think and question myself, will I ever, play a character which I have to kill a child? I can't think of anything possibly worse than that. But could there be maybe a lesson in it? Maybe somehow could that perform? I mean, again, these are all hypotheticals, and absolutely, I don't think creators can absolve themselves of social responsibility. And I know and I don't want to talk about any specific film or maker because I feel rather uncomfortable doing that because they're not here and I think they should be here to defend them. So without trying to participate in a specific film conversation, I think, yes, it's disheartening when, your moral compass, feels that something is wrong, but that film goes on to becoming a blockbuster. But having said that, people are watching it. Same way people watch porn. Or anything else, or violence, or I send you like a MMS clip, and before you know it, it's become viral. That is the power of media, and we can't deny that. Having said that, box office nobody remembers, and that's also a fact.
Yeah.
There are films that will outlive the box office of a particular film, so I don't think we should lose heart just yet.
And there's lots of positives just looking at this panel that we've come and learned about today. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you all of you for being here and making the time for our story, Huma Voice. And before we leave, may I please request all of you to stand so we can just take a quick picture. Thank you.